thank you for joining me today. I'm Jonathan Bernis. I am very excited to introduce our guest today. He's a pastor, an author, a teacher, and the host of Kingdom Connection. And he's a great prophetic voice in the church today. He really needs no introduction. Please welcome to Jewish Voice, Jentezen Franklin. Jentezen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jonathan. What an honor to be with you today.
I know you've been involved with giving to a ministry in the land of Israel. Why Israel? Why do you have such a love for Israel?
Well, if you don't want to love Israel, you better not read the Bible, because it is from Genesis all the way through. We know that it was the Jewish people that God chose. And he said, if you bless, I'll bless and favor you and all of those who begin to do that. And I'm telling you, it's like it was a window of heaven opened up over our life. I know people who are watching this ministry and all that you're doing. God honors when we begin to favor and bless Israel in ways that you can't even explain to people. You know, when you have a heart to do something for Israel, and I know God touches our heart to do that, and you say, Lord, lead me, I tell you, He will lead you, and He will provide supernaturally for those needs.
Always. I love divine appointments, and this is a divine appointment for you. You're not watching by accident. Pastor Jentezen, you have been ministering a really important word lately to believers about God meeting us where we're at, and a shift of perspective. And that's what I want to focus on with you, because I believe we're nearing the end of this pandemic now, but it's left people confused, destabilized, isolated, just uncertain, and in many cases hopeless about the future. People that were on fire before, and now they're really confused and wondering, where is God through this? This is an ideal message for this season.
Yes, it is. I had no idea when I wrote the book Acres of Diamonds that we would be in a pandemic. It was actually released, I think, in February, and then the blunt of the pandemic began to hit pretty heavy. And we're always looking out somewhere else for the blessing, that when I get to that place, or when I get that job, or when I have that house, or when if I had this or that, and we fail to see what God has given us right where we are, the unlimited potential of a God-called place that God plants you. It has everything. He has everything in that place. Interestingly, the story of Acres of Diamonds comes from the nation of Israel. It has a connection to the nation of Israel.
Well, tell us about it.
All right, I will. So there was a man by the name of Russell Conwell. Russell Conwell was an attorney. This was back in the late 1800s. He was an attorney. He went to Yale University. He was successful. He became a believer and wanted to know more about his Christian faith. So he took a trip, imagine this, in the late 1800s across the world to go to the Holy Land. He wanted to visit biblical sites. He had an Arab guide by the name of Ali Hafid, who took him around by camels and tents and campfires and showed him the sights of the Holy Land. And he would tell stories at night at the campfire. He would tell stories of that he had picked up from travelers all over the world. And one night he began to tell the story that the whole book is the premise of. And this story was so amazing that he came back, put it in book form. Russell Conwell did. It sold 7 million copies in the 1800s. And then he gave the speech 6,000 times, took the profits, and founded Temple University, built Temple University in Philadelphia. And the message has gone around the world. And yet, I think that there is a spiritual connection that a lot of people miss. And when I heard the story of Acres of Diamonds, it revived my belief in something of a biblical principle that God has a place where he will bless you. And if you will stay there, you have to obey God's stay command and not give up and not quit. He will bring everything to pass that he promised you. I believe there's a lot of people watching this program today who need to know sometimes success is a 4-letter word: stay. What happened in the story that changed Russell Conwell's life and so many people when they heard it, especially business people, was Ali Hafid was a farmer in South Africa. This is what the Arab guide told him. He said this man owned a farm, true story, in South Africa. And he had a little house, and he had acreage and a plow and an ox. And he would go out and work very hard to provide for his family. And one day a traveler came through, and he said, "It's a shame that you have to work so hard providing for your family and you get just enough to get by." He said, they're discovering diamonds, and they were in India. And he said, if you could just get the money to get over there, you could reach down, and a handful of diamonds would buy you a nation, and a bag full would cause your sons and family to sit on thrones. And that night, the man went to bed, and he became very discontent with that farm that he had in South Africa. He woke up, he announced to his wife he was selling the farm and everything that he had. He kissed her goodbye, hugged his kids, said, "When I come back, we'll be fabulously wealthy." And he went as a soldier of fortune out searching for diamonds all over the world. He went all over the world, and ultimately, in the end, he found no diamonds. He wrote a suicide note, true story. And on that note, he said, "There are no diamonds anywhere." He jumped into a raging stream in Spain, and that's the last he's ever heard of. Now, here's the rest of the story. The man that he sold that farm to took the same plow, the same ox, the same little cabin, the same acreage, and he began to work it. He began to plow it. He began to realize that there's worth in this place that man thought was worthless. And he kept hitting these annoying black rocks in every field. Every acre that he plowed, it was nothing but black rocks. It seemed like stacks and stacks of them. He would throw them over to the side. And one day he found one that was particularly beautiful in the stream, and he took it back and put it on the little mantle of the fireplace that he had in his cabin. And the local priest came by to welcome he and his family to the community, and they saw this rock on the mantle. And when the priest saw it, he said, "Where did you get that?" He said, "That is a diamond. That is a diamond in the rough." He said, "You've got to be kidding. I've got them all over the property. There's stacks and stacks of them." It became the birth of the world's largest diamond mine in human history. To this day, the famous Golando diamond mines are still generating diamonds that go all over the world, including to the Queen of England. That's where she gets her diamonds from. That man who sold that farm and left in search of diamonds all over the world never realized that right where he was everything he was looking for. But he had to plow that field and work with what he had, where he was, when he was there.
That is so powerful. You know, we could spend all day talking about this. This is such of critical importance, especially right now as people have been isolated and questioning God and wondering what's next for me, for my family. You've written a book, Acres of Diamonds, and we want to make it available this week. We want to get this into your hands. Pastor, talk a little bit about why this book is so critical for people to get now.
Well, it is because people need hope. People need faith. People need to know that everything that you need, God has said he would supply that need. But a lot of times we think the grass is greener on the other side. If I could just get somewhere else. Well, my story is the story of Acres of Diamonds. I'm not in New York City. I'm not in Phoenix. I'm not in Los Angeles. I'm not even in Atlanta. God called me to a little country town in Gainesville, Georgia, and I was scratching my head saying, why here? And I became the pastor, first church I ever pastored, Free Chapel, became the pastor of this little church. And I saw, though, in this little country church, acres of diamonds. See, what has to happen is God has to open your eyes. God has to open your eyes. There's a great verse in Psalms 119 that said, open my eyes to wondrous things. When God opens your eyes, you don't see what other people see. Other people may say it's worthless, just like the story of Acres of Diamonds. That farmer said he saw worthless acres and a miserable old ox and a plow. But this other man comes along and takes the same acres, the same plow, the same ox, and begins to discover acres of diamonds. And sometimes we do that and we are ready to walk away from our marriage, walk away from our job, walk away from our calling, walk away from our ministry. If I had walked away, and I bet, Jonathan, if you had walked away from the ministry that God has called you to and raised up to go around the world, there were times when it didn't look like what it looks like right now. But how are diamonds born? Where do diamonds come from? It requires two things: heat, intensive, extreme heat and pressure. And those carbons get under heat and under pressure, and at the right moment, the atoms bond and a diamond is born. You cannot have the diamonds in life without heat and extreme pressure. And if you're feeling the pressure and you're feeling the heat, God is saying there's diamonds here. Don't walk away. Don't run to some other easier way out. Sometimes God says, I want you to stay and dig in your own backyard.
Yeah, it's not about a change in situation. It's about a change in perspective. When God speaks, I love when the response is, and they looked up and saw. You need to see. I want to get this into your hands today. We want to send it to you right away. We want to sow this into your life as you sow into this ministry and enable us to reach Jewish people with things like medicines and clean water, people that are living in destitute situations that can be helped by us in the name of Jesus, in the name of Yeshua. And most importantly, they respond to the gospel. Their lives are changed forever. So please, I encourage you to become a monthly partner, Shalom partner. You can get the information in the message that follows. And welcome back to Jewish Voice. Before I get back into the message with Jensen, I want to take a moment to say thank you for supporting Jewish Voice, and especially those who are monthly Shalom partners. I want you to know it would be impossible to do this work without you. We're truly making a difference in the lives of so many Jewish people and their neighbors who are in desperate need of medical care, clean water, antibiotics, education, and most of all, hope. So thank you again for your amazing support and generosity. Pastor Jensen, I want to go back to this theme on diamonds in your own yard. And diamonds just don't form overnight. They're black stones, and they're not what we see on a on a wedding ring without some things happening. Let's talk about that.
That's exactly right. What it requires is heat and pressure, extreme pressure and heat. And that represents in our spiritual life trials. Don't run from your trials. Don't run from the heat and the pressure. Don't run from the marriage when it's going through a tough time. There's still diamonds there. There's diamonds in that marriage. There's diamonds in those teenagers that are driving you crazy. If you won't give up and you won't lose hope. And so what I think we need to take from it is, I thought about the story of the prodigal son, of how he was living in his father's house and he had everything that he needed, but he never saw it, Jonathan. And he said, I want my inheritance. I'm going out. I'm going to find the acres. I'm sure he had some friends saying, come on, man, the party's out here. Life is out here. Everything fun is out here. And he left the father's house only to come back after he lost everything and realize everything that I was searching for was right under my nose. I just didn't have my eyes open. I was living in the Father's house in acres of diamonds. And I want to say to people who are discouraged today, maybe you lost your job, maybe your family's going through the greatest trial and difficulty, the heat and the pressure are enormous, and you don't know how you're going to make it. I want to say to you that I believe that God has you right where you are, and you have no idea of the unsearchable riches of Jesus Christ. If you've got Jesus, you've got everything you need to make it through. And I believe we're living in a time when people need to pray that prayer, open my eyes, let me see it, because somebody can take that same acreage, that same family, that same marriage, that same aggravating husband or wife or children that seem like they can't get it together, and there's a diamond in there. There's a diamond in there. Don't give up on people, and don't give up on each other, and don't give up on your calling and your vision and your destiny.
Right, absolutely. I hope you're getting this into your heart. I hope you're listening and getting it here. Now, you say something that is so important. Also, you say that we can't necessarily choose what happens in life, but we can choose whether it takes us up or down.
That's right.
Right? I want you to talk about that, because a human response to a bad situation is, Lord, why have you allowed this? The children of Israel complaining in the wilderness, and God doesn't like the complaining. For one, it doesn't resolve situations. But tough things are dealt to us in life. It's part of life. But then we have to choose what direction it's going to take us, towards God, away from God, up or down.
Many people are watching this program, and they're in the trial of their life. They're in a desert. They don't know how they're going to make it, what they're going to do. But God wants you to hear this message. He's not through blessing you. Everything you're dreaming for is on the other side of not giving up.
This is such a timely message. Let's bring it to the pandemic. We've been, by the time this airs, a year into this pandemic. We hope we're putting it behind us, but people have really suffered through this in so many ways. Against many that have lost their jobs, isolation, misinformation, political unrest. What do you say to people who are just so confused and saying, well, what good comes out of this, Jensen? Pastor, what can come out of this?
The old song, turn your eyes upon Jesus and look full on his beautiful face. That when you begin to realize that he is the only answer, he is the only hope. I'm so tired of trying to stop the curve and change the curve and wearing a mask. I want to get on the same road. I told our church Sunday, I want to get on the same road the Apostle Paul did. I want to get on the road to Damascus, and I'm ready for it. I believe we're on it. I believe we're coming to the end. I believe it's time for God's people to show themselves alive. When Jesus rose from the dead, the Bible said he showed himself alive. And it's time for us to come alive again, to dream again, to believe again. God has an expiration date on COVID. God has an expiration date on the trial and the pain that people are going through. And I want to encourage everybody, don't lose hope. Don't give up. Look to Jesus. I'll close with this, but there were two thieves. One of them looked at Jesus, the man in the middle cross, on the middle cross, and he saw nothing. He cursed him with his last breath. But another man had his eyes open, looking at the same cross, at the same blood, and he said, when you come into your kingdom, Lord, remember me. And Jesus said, this day you'll be with me in paradise. See, we're all going through it, saved or not saved. But if you can see Jesus in it, you've got acres of diamonds.
Amen. I am fired up right now. Jensen, thank you so much for being with us today. You've written a book, Acres of Diamonds. You didn't even know about COVID when you wrote this. It came out right before, but it's so appropriate. It's so timely for people that have been through a year of isolation, many that have lost jobs, and it's just been a destabilizing time. Talk about this book, Acres of Diamonds. I love the message in this book.
One of my favorite stories in the book is the story of Steve Wynn in Las Vegas. Steve Wynn's a big, owner of big casinos there, and he's an art lover. He bought a Picasso painting. He builds these big hotels, and he loves art. He bought a $50 million Picasso painting. And he had and it's called Le Rêve, which means the dream. And this is so important to the audience, because if you feel like you've lost your dream, listen to this. He had it and held on to it, and a man invested in it and said, I'll give you $135 million for it 5 years later. So he sold it, but he had a party in Vegas, brought all the jet set people in that came from all over the world, movie stars, and they celebrated the dream, Le Rêve. And he had it up on the stage with him, and he has an eyesight problem. He tripped, and his arm went through the painting called The Dream, and he tore it. And of course, the investor said, it's worthless, I don't want it. But he took that painting, found an art surgeon, flew him over. He worked on it for a year, and then he put it up for sale, and it sold for $16 million more than the 135, which is $155 million. And guess what? The man who said it was worthless paid $16 million for it. He's the one who bought it. It cost him more. When your dream gets torn, you may think, what I've been through has rendered me worthless. But God says, I see diamonds. I see diamonds in your pain. I see diamonds in what you've gone through, and God can restore your dream. Don't give up.
And there's lots more stories like that in Acres of Diamonds. This will move you back into the right frame of mind and heart to fulfill your destiny. That's why I want to get it into your hands today. We don't sell materials. We sow them into the lives of our partners as a thank you for sowing into this ministry and enabling us to reach Jewish people around the world, some in absolutely desperate situations. Jewish communities and their neighbors that don't have clean water or access to medical care or medicines. We earn a platform to share the gospel, and their lives are transformed. You can be part of that. You can be a blessing to the Jewish people, and the greatest blessing